Hi there. I don't know exactly where to start. There's really not that much to show you this simple example, but I thought I'd, while I'm here, I might just give you a little history lesson on the way things were when we didn't have things called DLLs. You know, uh, the suffix of some file names is .dll, and that stands for Dynamic Link Library. Essentially, what a DLL is a file that contains code, and the code can be well, typically it's called by one program, but there could be more than one. In the old days, anyway, several processes would call functions in the same DLL. And that's probably true today. But we always had this problem with memory limits. And I'm trying to remember the names. There was a company that came up with a partial solution, which was that you could for certain tasks you could figure out maybe part of the program won't be used for a little while, so you could swap in some other code from disk and let it run there in that space for a while, right, and then replace it back and so on. It's very complicated, extremely complicated mess. And I think the extensions for those files was .dv for desk view, or top view, dv. It was something like that. Maybe dvx. .dvx. That sounds familiar. dvxms. Or dvr. Not DVR though, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, you can see it's terrible. But they had to do something because memory was running short, and there was no more memory to be had. And if you had a bunch of code, a block of code sitting there not doing anything, well, swap it out and put something in there that can do something. Well, I'm going to do something now that I'll never do. I'm going to create a new project, but not with copy project. I'm going to use the interface. I'm going to make a DLL project and put it in somewhere where it won't get mixed up. I can go to my DLL thing, and I was just there. I don't want to. Let's see now. It could be anywhere. Let's see. I'd like to stay here. I have this DLL test. And these are DLLs. Okay, I can copy one of these. Okay, why do I do that? I don't care what's in them. This one's worse. Haha. Watch this. Empty recycle bin. Now this is interesting and useful knowledge. Alright now, where was that? This is where it is. Count link. Count link. Okay, some of them are 2s and some are 1s. That's because I have a shadow of this all of my stuff. I should delete the shadow really and make another one. But watch this. Take all these. Read only. I don't know if that's going to matter. Now I'm going to restore them. And the locks are gone. And they're still read only and so on. How about the links? Same. So it's just a bug to do with the recycle bin. Okay, now let's see. Now this doesn't do very much. I can cut all that out. Unbelievable. This one's got an export file. Something like that. I'll copy this one. Call it any old DLL. Some DLL. Okay. Now, I'm not going to use common or anything. I'm going to get rid of common. I don't want to get rid of everything though. You got to leave at least 2 things or else you lose this tree. Well, what did I put in here? Something useless. Looker. I deleted that. Okay. Alright. Windows.h. Okay. Our paths are not including anything. Shouldn't be. No special directories. Standard libraries. DLL output. Code generation. Multi-threaded DLL. When you're building DLLs, you should also link to the DLL version of the runtime, or else you'll get conflicts. Okay. New strange here. No, this shouldn't say that. It's one of those funny constants. Cosmic. Maybe something. Eliminate that. Where is that? Use everywhere. Oh. Solution config name. How do I get a list of those? Let me see. Where was that? Oh, okay. Outdoor project name. No, parent name. Project name. Some DLL. Okay. So you can get a list. No additional directories. Input. Now we have a definition file, which is one way to export functions. I don't know why I've got this here. I don't think I should need it. Oh, man, that's fine. I'll turn that on. Hey, no, I want default library. I want debug information. My Windows world. My entry point should be already magically set up. It's called DLL main. Surprise, surprise. No ATL. No, this is debug. Let me see what's in this def file. I'm sure we're going to get rid of most of it. The library is going to be called excuse me. Okay, I think I can talk now. Olive. We'll import one function. I got really. God, I'm gonna die. One function. Food. No. How about that? We can give any organs or anything. You can put comments here. Okay. Now that defines a name for the exported function. We don't need any of this stuff. Yeah. We might need string one. keep it, might be useful. No, we got the runtime line. Alright. Now, we got this stuff. Thread problem. Alright, get rid of all that. We need this stuff. Now, usually people put win after again. Now, why am I going to external C? Do I need that external C? Well, the C++ file. Well, I know that's the file. Windows 8. Well, we might want to console, but not yet. This stuff. Now, nowadays, see, programs don't run out of memory like they used to. But people still like to put code in separate libraries and swap them into the memory space of your program, swap the code in, and call the function. Now, when your program does that, I see, this is CRT starter. I think this is the starter. There's the CRT, there's the C. Yeah, this one probably doesn't have there's DLL name, but before DLL name is the C runtime. It has its own DLL name, which calls this DLL name, and it passes an H instance and a reason, and I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. Please. No. Where is the pointer to LC1? Okay. And it's reserved. So I have a guess as to why they reserve these things. Because I did that recently before I cleaned up that mess with the dialog boxes, with the while open dialog box. I needed to hang on to a string, that parsed string, and not use it till the end. But the thing calls itself recursively. So I needed to pass that string back in, and I had to, invent a reserved last parameter to keep hanging on to that data. Anyway, bool Win32. Now I don't see it saying anything about Win32 is standard call, so it's not going to decorate this name. Now on process attached, that means some processes begun to use the DLL, and we might want to do something, and when it's finished, we might want to do something. There's also threads attached and detached, which you can almost always ignore yeah, let's get rid of this fast enough. I could hopefully create our function. No, I didn't say what type of function it is. I just said it's called some foo. I didn't say how many arguments it takes or nothing. I hate having this. Is that corporate? Yes. We gotta get rid of all the corporate stuff. Well, it's gonna be it's gonna have to be a standard call function. I think that's how those things have been defined anyway. I wanted to close all this. Blah blah blah. Cast, convention. And unknown pointer. I don't know where it goes. Well, let's see what happens. I'll call it int. The function name. Now, there's a way to do this without having to use the cast file. Well, I suppose it takes two, right? Okay. And it's going to have to be on standard call so that we don't get any name decoration. Otherwise, this return value and all this included in the name. We don't want that. We can return the sum. So what we call it sum. Some DLL sum. Now I wonder if that on its own will compile. Debug Win32. Yeah, that's fine. Doesn't matter if it's Unicode or what. Linking. Now it's created a what they call an import library. We don't really need that, but let's just have a look. Export. Okay. I just want to be able to see what's going on here. So here it is, some DLL. Okay. Some DLL sum. That's the name of the function. Now it turns out that it's showing us here what it amounts to, but the name is still that. That's weird. Looks like for the experiment seed. It's curious to see. It looks like this is contained a mangled name and an exported name. I don't want things to be different. Okay, that's good. That's good. So now it's become a C call, and that's why it's got an underscore. And it's not an @8 yet. So maybe, no, it's not. It's definitely not C. Doesn't matter. But anyway, 8 here tells you how many arguments it takes. Doesn't tell you how much it returns. Now let's see if it imports anything. Okay, a few things from kernel, some startup stuff for the runtime library. Now this thing called, there's a program called Run-DLL32. I've never used it like this. I'm going to try it. See if it helps there. That's great. Okay. Some DLL. And, I suppose that's the function. And these are the arguments. Now I have no idea if this is how it works. Missing entry some DLL true. It's called sum. Now I wonder what it did. How does we print it out? Because I think you can use that run DLL32 to just run any old function in a DLL. Now, what print to where? What we need is, we don't really need a gallant console, but we just need attached console. Come on, pick it up. Attached console. I want a new console. There's something called attached console. Okay. Next, you come up. I know I need something else in that header file. Maybe, take a while. Well, we just printed it. No, it won't work. We don't have the standard of it. We need to get the handle of the console. I know. Forget the console. Forget all that. Print it to a file. Some. That was not really cool. Right. Use this magic text mode. Okay. There's no error. Yeah, find that. That. The file. I'm not sure if I have the right way around. And turn and close the file. That's better. That looks good. File first. Format and then start. So if it really calls this function with those parameters, then it should print this out. And we'll get to see in what order the parameters go. Okay. I didn't get any parameter for that random garbage. But the function was called. So maybe we gotta put this in quotes or something. And then we need a comma. Okay, that's no good. Try that. No. Well, as you can see, it's almost doing the right thing. Missing it. Okay, I think that's the entry point. Maybe the parameters input. No. Okay. Alright. That's not important. I don't even know how this fun DLL thing works. However, if we just add in a regular old U-test, here, got all of our everything, completely disconnected from that DLL. It doesn't matter what configuration you're in, but it would be preferable to be in debug. Turn these off. That's a debug. Okay. Okay. Now I'm not going to link. I'm not going to use that. See, that lib file would have allowed me to just call that function directly. Instead, I'm going to try and just find the function in the DLL. Now, my current directory would be the debug directory, right? And the H instance is H module. It's all the same. So DLL. Now, I think that that's going to be this type of int Win API pointer function to the Win API type is int and that is the name of the function according to the printout. Alright. Well, this is a funny declaration here. I can make it a type there if that bothers you. Okay. Now, bus I2 equals %d equals %d that. Okay. U-test and com. Now this has to be true. Put com in again. String. That doesn't really use any of the com. Who am I including? I'm including com, right? Now those are error warning something. Let's see. Told you I'd be slow at this. But you're learning about DLL. That's good. What I'm going to show you is how we can use DLLs like this in order to sort of package up functions that we don't want to write again, like we do with the libs, but we could also distribute it. We could give it to somebody else and they can use it too. It doesn't have to, and they don't have to rebuild anything. They just have to get these procedure addresses and call them. And how this relates to com is initially the idea of automating this process, of finding addresses and so on. And then the idea of factories, which I'll have to explain in the next video. The factory is a type of pure interface design. Like imagine a class where every function is virtual. So you don't know the implementation of anything. You can't create one. You have to call a magic function to get one. That collection of functions in that class form a factory. They do some job, the details of which are unimportant. We needn't concern us. The resources allocated and so on. It's taking a while to build. I'll pause. Okay, now I still got an error. What's my error? PF sum identifier not found. Oh. Because it only existed under that if case. Well, let's see if it works. Now I built that other thing with debug information, so we might even be able to step into this. But we'll see. Now remember where we are. Here's U-test. We're going to run it. And it should find some DLL immediately in its path. Okay, now we did get a value, HDLL. Now, you'll notice that some DLL was loaded into memory along with another DLL. Okay. Now we did find the function, and it's at offset 1010 in the DLL. Now we're going to try and call it. Now here we are in some DLL with I1 equals 2, and this is 3, which is the order we sent them in. Okay, now our print out will be fine. Close the file. Now, the important bit is how we're going to return here. This says return 8. So this is not a C call, and when we come back home, we better not be cleaning up any stack. It's been cleaned up already. Print F. Where's the call to? Well, that's F close. Here, okay, this is the call to the DLL, into the DLL, I think. Offset, blah, 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 something. CX is PF, push. What is it called? PF. Print F, yeah. F close, yeah. We never called F close. Wait a minute, we're still in some DLL. We haven't returned yet. See where we are? It doesn't say here, but I don't know where we are. Where's the little arrow thing? F8. Okay. Call TFSum, no cleanup, and that's good. So the stack checkpoint crashed, and it worked. Okay? So now you've seen how to create a DLL, find a function in the DLL, call a function, and that's the first step in COM, in the component object model, is to create a special kind of DLL which has a special set of special functions that one calls through a special interface. And that special interface is defined by those bloody numbers that appear in your registry. And that will get to next time. See ya.